Hello, listeners, followers, and subscribers. You are listening to the Band1 reRUN podcast, in which I interview and talk story with directors as we run it back to the 2019 marching band season and discuss the process of how their 2019 marching band shows came about. But before you continue listening, be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube and follow me on Instagram at _band1_ for more content. Today, on the second episode of this podcast, I have the pleasure of being joined by Maui High School Saber marching band director, Mr. Kerry Wasano. Welcome, Kerry. How are you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk story, and appreciate all the hard work you do, bringing marching arts to all the fans in Hawaii.
Definitely, my service is at the volunteer level, and
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
such a time right now, especially to be in the groove of things like uploading, recording, showing up to shows.
You bored, yeah?
A little bit. I'm finding myself to do a lot of streaming, like watching Netflix, and
Oh yeah, well, me too.
I'm not really a binge watcher of any shows, but
Forces you to be now. Well, what is this? Beginning of October. Yeah, you'd be pretty much ramping up to start recording everybody's shows and stuff now.
right, the season openers, like mini classic.
Yeah, yeah.
I think last year when I talked to you about flying over to your guys' festival,
Yeah.
it was almost not a last minute idea, but it was just, hey, I want to see what you guys are up to, because I haven't seen you guys in like 2 years, because every time when you guys were flying to Honolulu, it would be such a treat to watch you guys from the stands. So
A lot of fun to come over and share our show with, I guess, different people, and a lot of my kids don't always have the chance to island hop much,
right.
So oftentimes it's some of my students' first trips to Oahu.
Yeah.
So no, yeah, when you contacted, that was actually, yeah, a nice surprise, and was really nice for you to come over and bring to light what we're doing on Maui. Very humble show, just the two bands, but
Yeah.
that was fun, relaxed, no pressure.
Yeah, I remember hopping off the plane, getting into the rental car, and just showing up to the site and trying to find you. And I, of course, you're very recognizable, and so I approached you, and I'm like, Kerry, and then I just asked you, hey, could I go around, take photos?
Yeah.
Went around.
That's a great other aspect that you're adding to your I guess repertoire of things is the photos. Yeah, and I think people. The fans really like to see the performance photos and all that. So that's real great.
Right. I feel like
that was a very nice way of calling me bald, by the way.
I mean, you're a very handsome gentleman is what I'm saying. So, but
Just
yeah,
here, huh?
Last year, such a experience for me, and just shooting stills is, I would say, added work, because I only did video up until like 2018, and
yeah,
I felt like I could make a little more presence in the Instagram world and take photos. So
yeah, and I gotta say, good job. I mean, I can for sure. My students really enjoyed seeing a lot of the photos, and it's exciting for them. As many subscribers as you have, to be out there. I think is really, really cool for the kids to see.
I don't really talk about it, but it's kind of like a good experience. I always wanted to document behind the scene photos, if anything, as well as performance photos. But sometimes you take too much photos and it just eats up at the hard drive space. So I'm definitely gonna try and sort last year's photos and do some throwbacks, if anything.
Oh yeah, that's always fun. Yeah, I mean, I guess photography as opposed to videography, in the style of which you do it, I guess, it would be a lot more time consuming. And yeah, I can imagine, because you're taking photos while you video too, right?
I'm sometimes covering the mic so the shutter isn't so apparent when I'm shooting.
Right.
Let's dig down into the premise of this podcast, and it's just seeing what the process of last year's show came about. In case everyone or anyone has forgotten what last year's show was it was called Outside the Box. My first question is, how did the theme come about, and what was the process of music selection?
A lot's changed in the past, I would say maybe 4 years or so, 3 or 4 years of like show design for us. In the early 2010s, is that what you call it? 2010 through about 2015 or so, we had a really, I guess I and the local Maui staff had a really big role to play in the design of the show and what we wanted. And of course, we actually used to host a design meeting in January or February it was on Maui, and we used to fly our drill designer in and music writer and so yeah, at that time it was Myron Rosander, and he'd really kind of lead the charge in what we wanted to portray on the field, or what he wanted to portray on the field. And so,
Right.
but since then, recently we have on board now Mike and Becca Anderson. Mike is our program coordinator, and a lot of that show design and flow is left up to him, which is actually kind of a relief for me. It's a big load off my plate. And yeah, we really trust he and his wife Becca to lead us in the right direction. And yeah, they have a lot of experience on the national level, so we just kind of follow their lead, and we just do most of the groundwork, the rehearsing and the tweaking here and there and whatnot.
Right.
But when you talk about music selection, we also have, well, Mike also has a hand in that, but we have a great music writer named Louis Norfleet, who has a lot of experience in drum corps and BOA. And so they're a team. Going with Louis was a really good step for us, in that it was a more cohesive package.
Right.
Being that they're good friends and they've known each other for a long time. And we really like what Louis writes for us, the flow and the contrast of movement to movement, I think, is really interesting for us. So
Right.
he's a true educator too. So he knows very well the ranges of all instruments, and he visits us once a year to check the kids out and see what sections are stronger, or what sections need a little more help. He kind of writes based on that. So yeah, it's great. We have a really good team. And again, the whole me stepping back out of the design portion was really a big relief. I was able to focus more on the students and not worry so much about what they're going to do, as opposed to how they're going to do it.
I noticed just by watching the shows last year, and just the flow of music from the opener to the ballad, the closer, there's no break. It's just such a smooth transition. The beginning part with the ambient sound and the flute soloist. What is the whole process of like miking the flute soloist?
Well, we went with a wireless mic, as opposed to, a lot of times we might bring soloists to the front sideline to do, hardwired microphones and stuff. Yeah, it's important to get good quality wireless or wired microphones, but I think it's a lot to do with the processing.
Right.
And how everything sounds when it's played back, with the right amount of reverb, equalization, etc. And I actually got to give a tip of my hat to Kristen Kawahara. She was Kristen Tanaka. She's Kristen Kawahara now. She got married, and she's our choir director. And she's been with the marching band for many years. And she took a step back this year to focus more on the choir and grow her program. But she really stepped up to the plate for us and learned a lot of the electronics, how to do things. And she was really instrumental in adding a lot of that ambient and sound, ambient sounds that you hear, and providing just a little more, I guess, excitement to the music and what's being played. And that's really essential these days. Instead of just band and percussion playing, there's a lot of microphoning involved. And so she was really instrumental in bringing that extra layer of I guess, quality to our performance.
Yeah, it definitely sets the tone from the beginning of the show and ends kind of at the same ambient sound towards the end of the show,
Yeah,
which we'll
yeah,
talk about later more.
yeah.
Because you guys had such a very distinct uniform, and
Mm,
not a lot of
mm.
people may know that there was a uniform change a few
Oh
years
yeah.
back.
Uh-huh.
And what
Uh-huh.
was the inspiration on like the new uniform
Well,
process on that?
we we decided to do the uniform change in 2017, the year we went to Bands of America Grand Nationals. And I guess the idea was to keep it really simple. I don't know if you noticed, but the jacket, the coat top that we have, the vest, is actually based on the Cavaliers vest. Um,
Oh,
it's I think they wear it in black, but we went with white, and there's
right.
there's those light gray stripes that run across it. So I'm not sure if the Cavaliers still use that vest, but I know for a period they were using those black vests. So we went with those in white with white pants, and we just like white. As I know a lot of schools on Oahu like white.
Yeah.
Nationally though, there's very little, a very small amount of bands that go with white. I guess it really shows any type of flaws and whatnot. But we
Right.
just like the clean look of white.
Yeah.
So we went with the white vest and the white pants again, and the white shakos and the white plume, and the undershirt that we had, the long sleeve blue sequence arms. That's actually changeable now. So
Oh,
if we ever wanted to, change the look of the band at any point, we could just purchase relatively cheap long sleeve undershirts
yeah.
and go that way. And another cheap way to change the look would be to change the plumes.
Right.
We could purchase another set of plumes, or they have Shako wraps now too that could easily be
Yeah.
put over the white Shakos, and so just more customizable, I think, and more budget friendly, I think, as we move
Hmm.
forward. Yeah.
Yeah. The trend now is to for their wins, especially
Mhm.
in bands on the mainland, is just accompany their theme. Is just there's always a uniform change, right? And a lot of
Yeah.
influences come down from like Drum Corps International. I could see it from a like a budget standpoint that
Yeah.
it's very costly. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm sure Derek at Mililani has a lot more to say about the type of uniform that's current, and
Yeah.
for us, I guess the design of the uniform now is just made to be more movable, I
Right.
guess, as opposed to the traditional coat and pants. So we thought that the vest, although the vest is still that thicker material, it frees the arms up to be able to move a lot better and
Right.
easier. It's a lot cooler. And
Yeah.
we put the zipper in the front down, about halfway down. So that
Notice.
kind of, provides a little more of the blue that can show through the V in the front, but also more ventilation.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
Going back to the theme outside the box,
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of literal and metaphorical
Mhm.
motifs in the show. You got the props situated around the band with the purple backdrop. How
Uh-huh.
did that come about?
Well, the title isn't anything metaphorical, anything really deep or profound.
uh
I think it's just the way of thinking, maybe outside the box. And I'm not sure if anyone expected us to always be outside the box, because that's the name of our show. But we actually end the show with the wins inside the box. So
right.
there's no real big explanation other than that. So the prop design across the field that we had was proposed by Becca and Mike,
Yeah.
and PVC, of course, and they were actually designed to be a lot bigger.
Oh.
So we sampled, I think it was a 10 by 10 box, 10 foot
Yeah.
by 10 foot, 10 by 10 by 10, I guess, in the beginning. And we took a few photos, and it was just immense. And it was such a bear to put together.
Oh, I bet.
And I guess when you think about the diameter of the pipes, we could go bigger to be more stable, but yet they're just held together by those joints. And the bigger
Right.
you go, the heavier it is. And we're thinking about kids being able to carry it. So yeah, we scaled it down. I don't remember what the final. I think it was 7 by 7 we went down to, or something like that.
Right.
But it was a balance between its size, being able to look big on the field, as well as be light enough for the performance to
Right.
move around. Yeah.
noticed sometimes I had to replay the show a little bit to see
Hmm.
that main prop in the on the
Yeah,
field,
yeah.
and what was the like the planning of like sacrificing some of the performers to be able to
Mm.
or move that prop, because I'm thinking it's not the same person for the entire show that's moving the prop.
No,
There's
yeah,
some
we had
substitution.
substitutions for sure. Yeah, that'd be really unfair to the same for
Yeah.
students to be able to have to move it around all show. Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
So, well, I guess what we Mike had designed along with our guard choreographer Jeff Capone, they had selected students based on their proximity to the prop and appropriately at the start of every new movement or the ending, or transition periods between movements, they would swap performers
Right.
and somewhat seamlessly. I think there's one movement that there was a little bit of an obvious switch right after the ballad, but for the most part, it was the transition was really well hidden, and I really give credit to those performers that were responsible for learning the box's drill moves
Right.
and to be able to put it exactly where it needed to be at every time. Because if there's any there were some moments in the show where it was pretty scary, where if they were offset by just a step or two, that would throw off some of the performers backwards marching near it, and that would be kind of a danger. So really big credit to those students for learning to put the prop in its proper position.
Right. Timing is such a huge factor,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
over time it takes a lot of practice to get those props where
Mhm.
it needs at the
Reps.
a lot a lot of rerunning. No.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I wanted to ask you about the inspiration of the color guard uniform and just the color palette.
Becca Anderson and Jeff Capone
Hmm.
worked with Mario Ramirez of Ayala to come up with that design for the uniforms. At first, we thought they were a little bright,
Like,
but I think in contrast to the purples on the field and the blues of the wind's arms and everything, I think it actually had the right pop for the color guard.
yeah.
Wanted them to stand out a little bit and as well as fit in at different times throughout the show.
From
Yeah,
the stands, it's very neon, but it's just there's
yeah,
more color palette if you're up close. So
yeah, like highlighter.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For
What
sure.
is your favorite part of last year's show?
I love the ballad. The
Yeah.
ballad was really pretty. We had a really good flute soloist, Sarah Sakakihara. And yeah, I think not sure if you're aware, but that's from the movie Beautiful Mind. I guess the ballad from the movie,
Right.
and it's just really beautiful. And so I think our students really embraced. A lot of them went to go watch the movie Beautiful Mind, and they had no idea what it was about. But
Yeah.
that's not really important to what the show was about. They understood the feel of the piece after they saw what it was about, and
Right.
could emote a little bit better at certain times that we needed them to.
Definitely.
Mhm.
I feel like for context, to watch the origins of like that movie and
Mhm.
um, kind of, I think, would help the performer perform a little more,
Yeah, absolutely.
and understand it. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what we picked, if it's a soundtrack type piece that we're using, or even something more traditional as a classical piece or anything of the sort, it's always great to go to the source material and give the students an idea of the actual intent of the piece,
Right.
as opposed to being so choppy in the potential to be very choppy in marching band.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really really good to go back to the source material.
My favorite part was the transition from the ballad to the closer, where the synth, I guess there's this pounding sound or this very dark, sinister tone from
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
low brass.
The music that was selected was from, I'm not sure if you remember the movie Signs. It
Mm,
was an M. Night Shyamalan movie, and I think it's part of that. In contrast to the opener and the ballad, Lewis likes to put in something that's not as melodic but more rhythmic,
right.
and the mood of that, like you said, sinister sound. I think really matched perfectly with as far as being contrasting to the prior two movements.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned before, Kristen Kawahara really went to it with that, and added a lot um, to the synth sounds that were able to enhance what the low brass was playing at that moment.
Mhm.
That it just added that depth and extra dimension that we felt was really good.
Right.
Yeah.
Last year, um, you guys competed at the 2019 Conquistador Classic in Chino, California. What was the beginning thoughts on wanting to fly up back to the mainland and just compete? And at that particular show,
Oh well, this is a story in itself. So actually, to get the band to Oahu is pretty expensive.
right.
I'm not sure if we ever discussed about cost for shipping everything over, and we usually air cargo everything. We break down all of our mallet equipment, sound equipment, and pack it up. And when we get to Oahu, we spend almost an entire day putting everything back together. So I mean, being that going to, well, basically traveling anywhere off island would require the same amount of work no matter where we go, we figured, it'd be probably a better value
Right.
to turn it into a mini vacation. And what better place to go than Southern California, where Disneyland is.
Yeah.
um, yeah, and again, for a lot of the students, that was their first trip to the mainland, much less to Disneyland. And so that was one of the big deciding factors. We had originally intended to do the Bands of America Southern California,
Oh,
but I think, I'm not sure, for whatever reason the venue changed from being in Southern California to, I think it was like a 3-hour bus ride north.
mhm.
And I don't even remember what city it was supposed to be in. But yeah, we just felt that the 6-hour round trip bus ride to a show wasn't going to be fun. I mean, although it was a Bands of America event, we felt that the needs of our students would be better served by staying closer.
Right.
We checked the WBA calendar, and there was the Conquistador Classic the same weekend that we're looking at.
Mhm.
And although it's a smaller show, the host, Don Antonio Lugo High School, they were so accommodating. At the last minute, I contacted the director, and we could use his field for rehearsal the previous day and store our props there overnight. Yeah, so it was really really good. It was, and they're really really nice people. We're able to get our students together, and they were able to socialize a little bit. They had prepared for us a little spaghetti dinner, and we
Wow.
ate after a rehearsal, and it was just a really good experience, in general, just from beginning to end. It was a lot of hard work, of
Right.
course. Again, as I mentioned, the equipment that we take, we like to take our own, just because the students are most used to using that percussion equipment. But I mean, everything had to be broken down and air cargoed over.
Right.
And on the way back, though, since we didn't need everything really quick, we were able to slow boat everything back.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it took just a maybe just over a week or so, maybe a couple of weeks to get everything back. In the meantime, the students really could have used that break anyway,
Right.
away from their equipment. But yeah, it was a hard work, but it was really really fun, and it just worked out perfectly, where the students were able to be very successful in their performance,
Right.
as well as have a really good solid day off the next day, and go to Disneyland and not have to worry about rehearsing or putting together their instrument or warming up or anything like that.
Right.
So it's a really good end to the trip as well.
To my surprise, and I'm sure to your surprise, taking home the first place trophy for that for division. What was your final thoughts on before even scores were announced, just the band playing their final show up there, what
Uh,
was going through your head?
as usual, just relief.
Yeah.
Yeah, like yes, we're done. We
It's
don't have
done.
to. I don't have to hear these pieces anymore. But it's kind of bittersweet. I think that the students really embrace the show as they usually do, and they really were, they worked hard all season.
Right.
And as you know, pretty much we do one or two big shows. Yeah, so we do football game shows. We do that band festival that you attended.
Yeah.
But other than that, this was the biggest. It was the only competition,
Hmm.
basically. So for the students to understand what they needed to do and execute on the field really required a lot of hard work and almost not knowing why they're working so hard because a lot of them had no competition experience. The
Right.
last time we competed was in 2017 at Grand Nationals.
Right.
So to go from that to another competition, we had a whole class of students that came in that had zero competition
Yeah.
experience. So again, for these students to work hard, not knowing what was going to happen, and to be successful and able to execute how they were supposed to was really a great accomplishment for them for sure.
Hmm.
And again, for the staff and I, it's just the feeling of relief.
Yeah. I
No,
bet.
we're really proud of the students.
Just watching the show last year in person, I kind of find myself pausing and not looking at my cameras just to like get a glimpse of what was happening on the field. And I feel like it was one of my favorite shows that you guys put on field.
Oh, thank you.
Aside from 2015, I definitely think
Yeah.
that was such a great production.
I think we had all cylinders firing that year. We had a great bunch of students, a strong senior class, and yeah, looking back, that was a really ambitious show.
Yeah. We can segue this into what the future of marching band might look like. What are your thoughts and hopes for the like future of the marching
Uh,
arts?
well, yeah, I'm not sure how soon we can get back to, I guess, quote unquote normal. If you think about it, marching band is never normal. Um, but for the students to get some form of their season back, and we had briefly touched on this,
Right.
you and I, in our conversation earlier, but um, at least for the seniors, something, if we are able to come back to in-person learning and safely do some form of marching band, I think that would be really important for this senior class. And we're like right now we're not doing much. I mean, I meet my students maybe once a week, and we do brief video assignments, but other than that, there's really not much we can do. It's mostly to keep them in shape, hopefully.
Yeah.
And a lot of the seniors this year understand, and they've been really good about being good sports about what needs to happen, and basically it's keep the band in shape or keep excitement up for the
Right.
following year when hopefully things can kind of happen on a more normal basis.
I guess when that time comes, it'll be exciting yet strange in a way. But I hope
Yeah.
we're all ready. I know we're looking forward to some kind of future
Hmm.
in this season, particularly. But it's also a good time to reflect and kind of like rest a little bit because a lot of the directors are super busy.
Yeah, thinking about it that way, yeah, it's the first summer I had off in 22 years or so,
Wow. Yeah.
so having that brief respite is nice, but yet at the same time we all understand what we're getting into when we you know work so hard for marching band, and
Right.
the end result of marching band is always something that's positive,
Right.
um, competition aside. And so, working hard towards that understanding, that your students understand what the hard work is for, is really the payoff. So, having to be away from marching band this year, yes, you have time to reflect, but at the same time, the students are missing out
Yeah.
a lot of that, well, social interaction for one, but yeah, that
Right.
lesson learned from putting in the hard work,
Hmm.
hours in the hot sun to perform at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that understanding again is something that this group of students will really miss, and I really hope we can get back to seeing them in person soon,
I
safely.
hope
Yeah.
so too. Just want to thank you again for joining me on this podcast.
My pleasure.
I'm gonna do the cliche thing a YouTuber does and subscribe to Band1. Also follow Maui High Band on Instagram, and hopefully, Kerry, will see you in the future. I hope, and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah. Hopefully soon. Take care.
Alrighty, thank you so
Yeah.
much.